Good morning, 350. So we're going to keep reading The Golden Door. So it's been almost a term since we read this. So we're going to have to do a recap first. So they were in the forest and they were getting chased. And then they went into that little hut. And then in the hut, they were really worried because they thought it was like a trap. And that's where everyone was taken to, die and not get attacked by those creatures. And then they got out and they ran and remember, he was really fast. Rye was really fast and everyone was really surprised because they had all that stuff in the little bag, and they think that maybe that ring made him extra fast. And then there was a cart and the people were helping them and they were on their way to Old Town, the city. "Look, Dada," cried Popsy in great excitement. "A bad person drawed on the sign. They crossed out Old Town and put another name instead." Fitzfee mumbled and clicked his tongue to the horse to make it go faster. His neck and back had stiffened. Rye could feel his tension as if it were his own. He was certain that the little man wanted to turn his head and see how his passengers were reacting to the changed sign, but did not dare to do so. "Nearer," Popsy read slowly. "What's nearer?" "Oh, that's nothing. It's just what Old Town used to be called before Chieftain Alt changed its name to be like his." Fitzfee was trying to sound careless, but his voice was shaking a little. It could have been because of the jolting of the cart, but Rye did not think so. As he met Sonia's eyes, he realized that she did not think so either. They could both hear that Fitzfee was afraid. Alt, Rye thought, his spine tingling, a picture of words scratched on a stone wall filling his mind. "Don't people like Chieftain Alt changing the name?" "Didn't people like Chieftain Alt changing the name?" Popsy asked. "Is that why?" So obviously the town used to be called Alt. It used to be called Nearer, and then Chieftain Alt changed it to sound like his name, and people don't really like him, so that could be why. "Don't worry your little head about it, Popsy," Fitzfee cut in sharply. "There is nothing to do with you. It happened a long time ago when you were a baby." "I'm not a baby now," the girl said. "Tig is a baby, but I am 5. "So you are," said Fitzfee very seriously. "You're a big girl, big enough and clever enough to promise never to say that old Nearer name ever to anyone ever. Hear me?" "Yes, just forget it. Chieftain Alt has forbidden it." "It's a bad name. Is it a bad name?" Popsy asked with interest. "Is it like L?" But Fitzfee at once began to sing loudly, shaking the reins and stamping his feet in time with the tune, until the little girl could not resist joining in. "You were right, Rye," Sonia whispered excitedly. "This tyrant, Chieftain Alt, must be our enemy. He has conquered his own people, and now he is using skimmers to make war on Weld." Rye did not answer. He was grappling with a new chilling idea. "Rye?" Sonia nudged him impatiently. Rye wet his lips. "Sonia, something is going to happen on Midsummer Eve," he said, keeping his voice very low. "Something terrible." "Why do you say that?" asked Sonia. "Just because of Fitzfee?" "No, the felon Adele, whispered something about Midsummer Eve to me as well when she gave me this." Rye touched the little bag hanging around his neck. So that's that little bag with all the little trinkets in it, with the ring that made him go really fast. "And there was something else." Sonia listened closely as he told her of the words he had seen on the back wall of the goat shelter, but when he had finished she merely shrugged. "So, whatever the danger is, it is surely between Alt and his people. It's nothing to do with us." "It might have everything to do with us," Rye said grimly. "What if the person who wrote those words was not a barbarian at all? What if he was a Weld volunteer who took shelter in the goat shed just as we did?" "But you said the writing looked new," Sonia objected, "and you are the first volunteer to leave Eld for—" This volunteer might have been returning to Weld, Or trying to, said Rye. He might have been trying to escape. Running away? Sonia made a wry face. I would not have thought that any of the splendid heroes who chose the Golden Door had enough sense for that. Do not joke, Sonia, Rye begged. Listen to me. Fitzfee knew who we were. He was afraid to talk about it, but he knew. I have been thinking that he cannot be the only one to be aware that world volunteers are coming here. And if the ordinary people are so aware, sooner or later, Chieftain Alt will hear of it too. Sonia said slowly, following his reasoning at last. Then he would try to find the spies out, search for them, capture them. Her face was very serious now. Sorry. Oh, Miss Oliver lost her spot. Her face was very serious now. Rye nodded, swallowing hard. Midsummer Eve is a time to celebrate. And what better way for a tyrant to celebrate than to publicly execute captured enemy spies? How better to show his power? Sonia frowned. You are jumping to conclusions. No one has said anything about executions on Midsummer Eve. You cannot know. I can, Rye hesitated, fearing she would jeer at him, then forced himself to go on. I dreamed of it, Sonia. I saw chains and fires. I saw Dirk begging me to make haste and run away. Sonia stared at him, very startled. You dreamed of it? She repeated in a flat voice. Yes, Rye said defiantly, and my dreams are true. I know it. Believe me or not, as you like. Sonia fell silent, biting her lip. The cart rattled and jolted. Fitzfee was still singing, Popsy piping in along with him. The goats grew bored, settled down on the straw that cushioned the floor of the cart, and sat lazily chewing their curd. Rye stared at the rich green and gold countryside slipping by. Every now and then he saw people working in the fields. None of them looked like Magnus Fitzfee. They were more like the barbarians Rye had seen in pictures in books, tall, broad-shouldered and roughly dressed. The younger ones, male and female, all had bandaged arms and heads and arms, or were limping as if they had been fighting. They did not look particularly savage, however, and many of them paused, straightened their backs and waved as the cart went by. Midsummer Eve is tomorrow, Sonia said at last. Still half a day and a night should give us plenty of time to get to Old Town, overthrow a tyrant and save his prisoners. Do you not agree? The corner of her mouth twitched. Oh, certainly, Rye said, trying to match her tone. He knew this was Sonia's way of saying she was with him, whether he was right or wrong about Alt's plans for Midsummer's Eve. They passed a small village where ducks of many colours paddled in a pond, lines of washing flapped in the sun, and little children ran about barefoot. Most of the older people were occupied in making a great pile of sticks and logs in the centre of a square. The people all looked healthy and well fed, but there was not a smile between them. Midsummer Eve, cried Popsy, breaking off her song and clapping her hands at the sight of the growing bonfire heap. One more sleep! That's right, said her father tightly, and this time he could not resist throwing a dark look over his shoulder at the silent passengers. Best you get some rest while you can, young travellers. There's a way to go yet. He lowered his voice so Popsy would not hear him. And when we get to Fleet, just keep your mouth shut and no questions, and you'll be told no lies, as my old gran used to say. Understand? He scowled until they both nodded. Then he turned back to face the front, clicked to the horse, and drove on. Interesting. So the next town they're going to be at is Fleet. That's chapter 15, and I'm going to read that tomorrow. Interesting. I wonder what's going to happen on Midsummer Eve.